Hello everyone, welcome back to the next part of Guide to the MCU. This is going to be about Phase 4, but only part 1 of Phase 4, because Phase 4 is very large. There were 17 projects, because shows got added on to the movies. So, Phase 4 Part 1 is just going to be on the 2021 releases. So that will be WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki Season 1, Black Widow, What If Season 1, Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Eternals, Hawkeye, and Spider-Man No Way Home. The 2022 releases are going to be in part 2, and then we will conclude with Phase 5. And then after that, just do reviews of more MCU projects as they release. Yeah, let's get into it without any further ado. So sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy Phase 4 of the Guide to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Dance off, bro! I have the high ground!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survive.
On the Tribe of Nerds. When Disney Plus was birthed, so too was Phase 4. And Phase 4 kicked off with a really trippy adventure with some of our favorite characters. WandaVision was an interesting experiment. WandaVision is like nobody thought that, putting Wanda and Vision into like a sitcom would necessarily work in execution, but they executed the sitcom part very, very well. And how it built up so much mystery over the course of the 2 months that WandaVision was airing. I just remember when we did it on the podcast when we used to do weekly releases, we had a lot of fun covering all the mystery and theories, and some of them didn't come to fruition. Hashtag Mephisto. Um, I think it's tough because obviously this was also made in the middle of the pandemic, but there's could have been some things done better. Of course, you have the Evan Peters, Ralph Boner of it all. They knew what they were doing, bringing Evan Peters back, and knowing that we were gonna be disappointed because of the fact that this had already been announced as the beginning of the Multiverse Saga, and you're gonna do that to us immediately. So that puts it down for me. And the finale, just in general, of it going from like this trippy sitcom reality, and I feel like it goes into this big giant CGI battle, which it's Marvel, so like they're trying to appease everybody, but I feel like they could have ended WandaVision off a little bit stronger, perhaps. Um, it so there was a cut sequence towards the end, at the end of the very at the very end of the series, um, and it was cut because the visual effects were not finished. So they scrapped it, but the scene was apparently the twins, Billy and Tommy, as well as Monica Rambeau and I guess Ralph Boner, were gonna go into Agatha Harkness's basement, and they were gonna find her rabbit, and the rabbit was gonna turn into a demon, not Mephisto. But other than that, I mean, Catherine Hahn was fantastic as Agatha Harkness. Of course, Wanda and Vision. Monica was good. to start her off here, leading into the Marvels. And of course, Jimmy Woo and Darcy were actually very, very good as well as supporting side characters in this. But you had other low points. I mean, Tyler Hayward was just a dick. um, and you know, the funny part was like Sword being turned into clowns and whatnot. Like that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, there's just some disappointment in that finale, and I understand like the sitcom thing might not be everybody's cup of tea, but they did it well enough. So yeah, and the post credit, I'm only going to go over the post credits at the very end, not in the middle of the series, that are kind of meant to be the end of the show. So I'm gonna count the white vision flying off. We have no idea where that's going. That's an unanswered question right now. Still don't know. Almost 3 years later.
I am Vision.
But we also have the setup for the Marvels. The Skrull comes and tells Monica that she needs to go meet Nick Fury in space. Sort of setting up Secret Invasion, tiny bit, but not really.
He heard you've been grounded. He'd like to meet with you.
Where?
And then, of course, Wanda's reading the Darkhold. And so that sets up Doctor Strange too, a little bit. So I'm gonna give WandaVision a B.
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
I think it was weird and good in some ways, and some ways it didn't work out the way they might have wanted it to. So I think a B is fitting for WandaVision. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I feel like I've gone down on Falcon Winter Soldier before, maybe a little too low, because a lot of the parts of it were also pretty enjoyable. It felt like classic Marvel while expanding on characters, and I thought that was really, really cool. Sam and Bucky's storylines in this show are great. I also liked the Isaiah Bradley storyline, and of course, I think while this show had way too many villains, at 5 villains, you had Batroc returning from Winter Soldier, played by George St. Pierre. You had Sharon Carter as the power broker, which was a really bad twist. You have Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers, which I don't think were executed well. And I think there's a reason for that they scrapped a plot line having to do with the vaccines. Those were cut from the show completely, and I think that's why the Flag Smashers fell flat at the end completely. So those three, and the Flag Smashers being so huge, a huge part of the show, just they weren't. The fact that they didn't work out, that has to mark the show down some. But I really do like U.S. Agent John Walker. I think Wyatt Russell did such a great job. He's a complex character. He's interesting. I know people say like the finale didn't finish his arc of the show really well, but I disagree with that. I think like him helping Bucky and Sam is to kind of get his credibility back for himself. So I think he had selfish reasons for wanting to do it, of course. And obviously he gets set up for the Thunderbolts, which is one of the Thunderbolts that I'm most excited to see again, actually, because of how good he was in here. And of course, you have Zemo and the Zemo dance. just wonderful to give him more time in this show. Um, but yeah, and you set up Valentina DeFontaine, Julie Louis-Dreyfus in this show, and she is great, and I expect more fun from her in the Thunderbolts, and we'll see her in the rest of Phase 4. She's like one of the main connective tissues in Phase 4, actually.
Well, these boots are not made for walking. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Actually, it's Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I know it's hard, but I don't like to repeat myself, so you can just call me Val. But don't call me Val, just keep it in your head.
So that's at least a little bit nice. And the other really big post-credit, well, I don't know, really big, but like the other post-credit at the end is Sharon Carter calls someone after she gets pardoned at the end, and theory is if it's setting up Captain America New World Order, Brave New World, whatever it's called now, that she is talking to the leader, played by Tim Blake Nelson. Now that I think about that, I think that's very possible. Could have been Kingpin, but I think more likely at this point that it is the leader.
Start lining up our buyers. Super soldiers might be off the menu, but we're about to have full access to government secrets, prototype weapons, you name it. Should be something for everyone.
I would hope so at least, but we'll see if that gets followed up on and in what capacity. I'm gonna give Falcon and Winter Soldier a B.
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
But I'm gonna put it closer to the top, and I think it's on par with WandaVision. I think like these 2021 shows were actually pretty good, with a few flaws, of course, but like the flaws got worse the following year, I think. And here they weren't as apparent aside from like the cut plot lines and whatnot. But I still really enjoyed Falcon Winter Soldier. It's still a solid, good time. Loki season 1. So Loki season 1, after seeing season 2 and knowing where that leads, this was such a good setup. And I liked Loki season 1 beforehand. I know what the criticisms were. We've talked about them at length when the show came out with each other and on this podcast. And I do see the points there, but I think especially seeing season 2, I just think this raises Loki season 1 stock even more. um the TVA, just the set pieces and everything just look fantastic. How they moved Loki seamlessly from the Avengers to here was really cool. The variants, I mean, I think we've seen some variants and we'll continue to see more, and that's really cool. And of course, kind of the setup of Kang here. He Who Remains is great, I think, in both Loki seasons. Jonathan Majors did a great job. Unfortunately, Jonathan Majors looks like he'll probably get fired unless, he's found innocent. But it's a lot of bad press for him, unfortunately, with his trial. So we'll just see what happens. Um, I will say, like, I feel like Sylvie and Loki's relationship is a bit weird throughout both these seasons. I think it gets handled a little bit better in season 2, but there was solid setup. Um, it's just interesting because she is also a Loki, but I think it's like Loki's learning to love himself in the first season, and so like them kissing was a way of saying that he has kind of found how to love himself. But I think the relationship is a little bit better in season 2. Um, once it's established. So There's just a tease for season 2. There's not really a post credit scene at the very end. The last episode is kind of just a big tease for Kang. So we get his origins there. But I'll give Loki season 1 an A. It's still really good.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
I just think season 2 just completely outdoes it when we get to season 2, but it wouldn't have done as well had season 1 not given great setup. So I like Loki. Black Widow. So Black Widow was obviously the joint Disney Plus and theater release because of COVID, and it kept getting moved. And obviously, after the character died in Endgame, it's a little bit too late. This movie definitely should have come out after, where it is in the timeline should have come out after Civil War. But the reason it's in Phase 4, you have the setup of Yelena and Red Guardian, and I guess Taskmaster, which wasn't the greatest choice. Thematically it works, but just angers a lot of comic fans to gender bend Taskmaster. But I just don't. I think it might have worked better had she just not been a mindless zombie for Dreykov, and he's just unlikable bigot who likes torturing young girls and women. And so, thematically that works, but I like David Harbour, even though Red Guardian is kind of just a buffoon. But this real standout, of course, is Florence Pugh as Yelena, and Yelena is just great in this movie, just a shining star. And of course, at the end credit, we get her at Natasha's grave, and you have Julie Louis-Dreyfus back as Val, and she is going to set up Yelena's appearance in Hawkeye. So
I've got your next target. Thought I'd hand deliver it. Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death. Kind of a cutie, don't you think?
that's pretty cool. I'm glad that that happened. But again, this Thunderbolt setup is really one of the only connective tissues in Phase 4. So, but yeah, I'm gonna give Black Widow a C.
Not a great plan.
I will say the third act was completely rewritten by what is called the Marvel Parliament, as per the book. So basically, David Harbour's talked about in an interview how that was the case, and the book talks about how Kevin Feige and all the producers are now this new Marvel Parliament, which is the new creative committee, and Kevin Feige is stretched too thin, and this Parliament is now kind of making interesting decisions. And so third act wasn't great because all the CGI was rushed, because it was completely rewritten. And yeah, I mean, just it's a little too dark, which makes sense for Black Widow as a character. But there's just things that don't work, but there's still some things that are kind of good. So I'll give Black Widow a C, but I respect people who connect with this movie on some level. What if season 1? So what if season 1, the first animated MCU project, we got season 2 as of the time of this recording coming out next month, as the last one of the year. Surprise, surprise. But what if is an interesting case because it's supposed to be this anthology series of just these what if moments. but then you have it interconnect at the end, like the MCU likes to do, which shouldn't be a surprise, but I didn't need it. I didn't need a Guardians of the Multiverse, personally. And I wish What If would have actually like had bigger ramifications. Um, so an episode got cut and moved to season 2 that we're gonna see with Gamora and Iron Man. Unless they cut Gamora from the episode that got moved to season 2 that we're gonna see, which is where Iron Man ends up on Sakaar and meeting the Grandmaster and stuff like that. Um, but it's just, I don't know. I it's just an odd thing just to have this version of Gamora, this variant of Gamora, just all of a sudden show up in the finale, and we don't know anything about this version. Um, I love Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. I liked some of the episodes. I think having T'Challa become Star-Lord, it's random, but it's really cool, and it's of course Chadwick Boseman's last performance in the MCU, and so that was definitely emotional. At the time this came out, shortly after his death, or about a year after his death. Um, but like the zombies episode I actually liked. I don't get people that disliked it because you have movies like the two Zombieland movies which have that exact tone and they were fabulous. Um, Especially that first one. So like I don't really know why people are mad at that having a kind of silly tone a little bit with like the rules and everything. Um, but yeah, the zombie episode I really liked. Obviously, the Supreme Strange episode, the tragic episode with Doctor Strange and losing Rachel McAdams' character, Christine, and kind of like how that leads him down a darker path. And I like that we're going to get more of that in season 2, actually, because I actually want to follow this version of Doctor Strange, and I would have liked this maybe as the plot of the first one. Of course, it wasn't going to go that route, but this is just a better version of the first one for me. So, there's also the post-credit setup for season 2 for another Captain Carter episode, where she finds Steve in the Hydra Stomper because Steve got taken instead of Bucky in that universe. So,
Famous last words.
The Hydra Stomper?
Yeah. And there's someone inside.
I guess cool. Kind of one of the more boring episodes, to be honest, but I like Captain Carter as a concept, and it was cool to see her version of her for a short time in Doctor Strange 2. And I'm gonna give What If a C, by the way. So,
Not a great plan.
so yeah, that's where it goes. All right, Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is definitely one of the better projects that have come out post Endgame. It was a big surprise for a lot of people, I think, who, especially a lot of the general audience, didn't know this character, and they just seamlessly weaved him in. And Simu Liu is just great. The martial arts are just fantastic. The fight choreography just really, really good. I mean, I wasn't really that bothered by the dragons fighting at the end. I thought it was really cool to blend that culture in, and I wasn't like, oh my God, they put dragons in this and now it's some CGI thing. I don't know. I just didn't find a problem with that in this case because, I know dragons are like some part of their mythology, and Asian mythology, and so like that's pretty cool. So Tony Leon, who played Wenwu, he said that he joined this movie because he wanted to play a villain for once in his career, so that's why he joined Shang-Chi. Um, yeah, so that's really cool. The post-credit scenes, you of course have Shang-Chi and Katie, Aquafina's character, being uh welcomed into some sort of a team up for the next Avengers, presumably, where Juan tells them that the Ten Rings are sending like a beacon, and who knows where that's going to lead. But you also get Bruce Banner and Carol Danvers appearing in the scene, and then it leads into Juan joining Shang-Chi and Katie for Hotel California karaoke, which is really fun.
First time you used the rings, we felt it in Kamatage.
What is it?
A beacon.
We're sending a message.
A message to where?
And then you get Xylin, Shang-Chi's sister, who is now leading the Ten Rings, and presumably, if we get a Shang-Chi 2, which rumors are flying around, then we will see what happens with that.
Let's get started. We have a lot of work to do.
But I'm going to give Shang-Chi an S.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
It's just a very fun time, and the comedic relief, like with Trevor Slattery coming back, Ben Kingsley, like even that is just fun and doesn't overtake the plot, like sometimes the comedic bits in the MCU do. Right, then we have Eternals, and I feel like I wasn't as low as people when as other people when this came out 2 years ago, but like, you know, the fact that these Eternals haven't really meant anything, and I can understand the flaws for sure, it really, I've gone lower on this movie, and I think there were some great fun moments, but there's also a lot of schlock in the Eternals. Kumail Nanjiani, who plays Kingo, had one of the biggest physical transformations, so that's really cool. And you know, it's a good cast despite there being way too many characters, and maybe this just would have worked better as a TV show. Like 10 episodes, you actually get to know each one of the Eternals more. The Deviants did not work for me at all. It's very confusing for a general audience, and it just doesn't work. And I did like Icarus. I know the evil Superman has been done to death at this point. But like, and to, you know, for me, like, I'm not as big into the boys, but I know from seeing clips and everything and a little bit of the show, Homelander is a lot better, and obviously J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man and Invincible is way better interpretation of the evil Superman trope. But there was some characterization to Icarus that was interesting. Post credits, which we don't know if they'll ever come about. I mean, you have at the very end of the movie Kingo and Cersei and Phastos get taken by the Airsham for judgment. So who knows? And then you have Harry Styles coming in as Star Fox or Arrow, Thanos' brother, to help the Romanian Eternals find them, and with Patton Oswalt as Pip the Troll.
The Royal Prince of Titan, brother of Thanos, Star Fox.
And then you have the final scene of Black Knight, Dane Whitman, played by Kit Harington, and you have him about to grab the ebony blade and being approached by Mahershala Ali as Blade.
I have to try.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
Whose voice we hear in the background, which is really cool, but we'll see if that ends up happening. There's rumors that may be even have been taken out with the many script rewrites of Blade so far, which I kind of hope not, because I mean that's kind of useless. I kind of liked Dane Whitman in the limited time we got him, but that might just be how the actor comes across. So, I'm gonna give Eternals a C.
Not a great plan.
I feel like at one point it was a B, but it's at a C now. I will say I also don't like how they just had Kingo leave the final battle. I liked him as a character. I loved Karun, his valet. I thought he was a really fun side character, and adorable. But yeah, they Kingo just not showing up for the final battle was just weird and out of place a little bit. I understand the argument for why it might fit, but it just didn't work for me. So I'll stick with the C on Eternals. Hawkeye. So Hawkeye is another one of my favorite shows. I just really liked it. Giving another one of the original OG6 Avengers some more time in the spotlight, and Hawkeye is often kind of forgotten from the OG6 a little bit. And just like rolling with the characterizations that the MCU has given him, and like with his family and stuff. And just setting it at Christmas. Christmas shows are always fun. And so you have Yelena crossing over. Of course, we have to talk about Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, who is just awesome. I think she's another one of the best new characters that we've seen, and interested to see her pop up more, I think. And it's just interesting that you like Yelena crossing over is one of the only major instances of besides Val of like Phase 4 really connecting at this point. But I just liked the action. I thought the action was fantastic with like the different arrows and like the finale and stuff. And I know people aren't as big of a fan of them rushing into Kingpin in the end. But I assume looks like we're gonna get a lot more Kingpin in the Echo series, which is spinning off, and I'm interested to learn more about her, and of course to get more Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Um, the the post credit of this is just simply a full performance of song and dance number for Rogers the Musical, which is just a fun post credit scene and one of the better gags. As well. This is pretty fantastic and fun to watch. So I'm gonna give Hawkeye an A.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
I think it could have been a little more spaced out, a little more episodes, but the fact that I'm asking for more episodes is a good thing in this case. I wish they didn't cut down to this number of 6 that they've always had, but I enjoyed Hawkeye quite a bit, and it's again another great show in this first set of shows from 2021. And of course, we finish off with Spider-Man No Way Home, which, again, Sony's setup in their Spider-Man films isn't always particularly the greatest. I just rewatched No Way Home yet again over Thanksgiving at the time of this recording. I still really like I like Far From Home as well, but I like No Way Home a lot as well. And people turning on this movie, I mean, sure, I guess. I still think it's a really fantastic, fun time and a fun theater experience as well. And part of the reason for that sloppy setup, I feel like, was because the film was still being written and rewritten while production was happening. So that led to the messier script in the beginning, and how things kind of were thrown together. Actually, America Chavez, who appeared in Doctor Strange 2, because No Way Home was supposed to happen after Doctor Strange. Wait. It was supposed to happen after Doctor Strange 2, I think. Yeah, it was supposed to happen after that. Um, and America Chavez was supposed to be in No Way Home. Yeah, she was supposed to go from Doctor Strange 2 to No Way Home and be the reason that we got Andrew and Toby and the villain, or Andrew and Toby, because the villains would have come from Doctor Strange's spell as well, but then America Chavez would have brought Toby and Andrew in instead of Ned. So that was something that would have happened instead, but because then it got rewritten to be before Doctor Strange 2, then they had to go with Ned instead of America Chavez. So that I understand people maybe not liking Ned all of a sudden having powers, but Ned's adorable, so Ned gets to stay. I think with the powers, I think it's still fun. Um, the um, the post-credit scenes. So, of course, we got Tom Hardy as Venom in the stinger of the post credits, as just a cameo, but he gets sent right back and leaves a little bit of the symbiote. The continuation of that in Secret Wars or something that remains to be seen. I obviously Sony promoting their own universe by throwing Venom in at the end, but not having him actually meet Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which they tried to throw in at the end of Venom to let there be carnages if that was going to be something huge, and that didn't matter. So. I will say there was the more fun stuff version, which came a year after, or a little less than a year after the movie came out. And the more fun stuff has an extra post-credit scene instead of the Doctor Strange 2 trailer, which I wanted to highlight instead, because I don't want to just show a trailer for a movie that's already come out at this point, and then we're gonna discuss later. But the extra scene involves, us seeing how Peter's former classmates and teachers and everything kind of react to not knowing who Peter Parker, like pictures from like the Europe trip and Far From Home and everything, and Tom Holland's face or Peter Parker's face is covered up in all the pictures, or he's just like missing from pictures. And so like it's kind of a cool way actually to show that at the end, and I think it should have been there in place of the Doctor Strange 2 trailer. As kind of just a little ending, further ending to what ended up happening. Um, I am still going to give Spider-Man No Way Home an S ranking.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
But despite it being kind of messy, and Peter could have actually prevented it from getting messier in the movie himself, but it's just not how it was written. I still love it for giving us more Toby and Andrew closer to their stories. You get Willem Dafoe being the GOAT, and being fantastic. Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx do a good job. Sandman and Lizard are the weakest parts of the movie by far. You get a little bit of a Daredevil cameo. So I mean, there's fun stuff. There's some schlocky stuff. But I think this deserves S tier because it's still a great Spider-Man story, in my opinion. So with the new rankings, I put Spider-Man No Way Home at number 3, under Endgame and Infinity War, and above Black Panther. Shang Chi is going to go under Civil War and Captain America Winter Soldier, and above Loki Season 1. So that will come next, which is above Far From Home. Then we go down to Hawkeye, which is right below Thor Ragnarok at number 12, and above Guardians 2. Then we have Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is going to go to 18, right under the first Captain America, the first Avenger, and above Age of Ultron. I think I've gained a little respect for other things now, knowing what's happened with other shows, and I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier was that bad. So I have more respect for this because it was still a fun time compared to some other shows. And then WandaVision is number 20. It was above Falcon Winter Soldier for a little while, but I've put it below. It's still good though, despite a few flaws. Then we have the two Ant-Mans, Doctor Strange, Iron Man 3. What If Season 1 is number 25 under Iron Man 3. So, with some episodes that really do work, like the Doctor Strange, like the zombies, At least the multiverse stuff is kind of cool, despite the Infinity Ultron having weird mixed power levels, which is just odd. And episodes like Party Thor just being really dumb. And then right under that is Eternals. Then we have Black Widow at number 27. And then we have our bottom five, that we'll see if anything goes below them. But yeah, that's 32 now. So next will be part 2, which will be the 2022 releases, which will kick off with Moon Knight and go through to the Guardians Holiday Special. And then Phase 5 will kick off with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and go through to Loki Season 2 and the Marvels. And then we'll try to do a review of What If Season 2. And then we got something special planned for the end of the year. Maybe we'll get me to the beginning of 2024, similar to our last draft. So there's your tease for the general audience. It's going to be another draft, so I'm kind of excited for that. But so we'll see you all next time, though, in Phase 4, Part 2, in Guide to the MCU on Tribe of Nerds.